Hello and welcome to Podtoid. I'm CJ.
I'm Dan.
I'm Charlotte.
私の名前は
Occams.
Oh, damn it.
Damn. So that's what that was earlier.
Welcome to the show. This is episode 459. Thank you for joining us today. We have a good program planned for you. We're going to be talking about some WWE Battlegrounds, some 13 Sentinels, and some Final Fantasy X. And then a little bit later in the show, we're going to be looking back at the PlayStation 5 presentation. Before we get into any of that, Dan, how was your week this past week?
Well, I bought a game I shouldn't have probably bought in retrospect, but yeah. It's been all right. I got a PlayStation 5 pre-order in, so by sheer pure luck, right after the presentation, a friend of mine was just like, hey, yeah, weird, the Best Buy pre-orders in Canada are already live, and I'm like, oh, okay, sure, and I put in a pre-order and went through, got the email and all that, thought nothing of it. My original plan was just going to bed and, trying in the morning, and I'm really thankful I didn't go down that route now.
And have you received an email letting you know that it's going to be delayed or canceled?
No, nothing.
Knock on wood, yeah.
My pre-order got through, so.
Yeah, we'll definitely be touching on that a little bit later in the show, but it was kind of a clusterfuck to get all those out. And then I heard in Japan it wasn't any better, so.
It has me dreading the Xbox One now, honestly.
At least with the Xbox One, they all go live at the exact same time, so it's not like it's all scattershot like this one was. Stupid Walmart. How about you, Charlotte? You do anything interesting this past week?
I mean, on the PS5 discussion, that's just not going to happen for me because we're apparently currently using so the TV that we're using is my boyfriend's TV, and yesterday he noticed that there was some shadowing appearing on the picture, and I couldn't see it. I still can't see it, but he can see it because he's kind of used to using that TV. And I was like, oh, but this TV is only 5 years old, right? No, it's 13 years old.
Oh my God.
There is no point in us getting a PS5 until we get a better TV, because my TV is the one that's sat on the floor right now is probably dated around 2006, so it's just as old. So there is no point in us getting a next gen console until we get a better TV. So yeah, we're probably going to start looking at TVs soon, but the PS5's probably going to wait. So if anybody's got TV suggestions, then I'm all ears.
Quick question: does he have a plasma screen?
I mean, yeah, it's a flat screen TV.
It's a flat screen. Okay.
Yeah, we've got a CRT in the corner, and actually the one that's on the floor is not going to get given away because it's one of the very, very first flat screens where it has all the, SCART connections and stuff at the back. So it's actually kind of valuable to keep that in case the CRT dies.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but we're not in the modern world here.
I recommend the TCL Series 6 because it is affordable and pretty good HDR for the price.
I have the Series 5 of that, and it's a very good television. Charlotte, I will say, a few weeks ago you talked about Fall Guys and how it just kind of wasn't for you. I've reached that point. As many times as I play it, I just can't get into the experience.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I finally got to play it and played a couple of games, and I was like, it's just not my thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's, for a lot of people, it'll have a very, very short shelf life. It'll be really entertaining for about 2 hours, and then it just doesn't have any appeal past that point.
Yeah. Although I finally unlocked the pigeon costume, though I understand people hate the pigeon costume, so I'll just keep playing just to ruffle people's feathers that way.
Oh, ho, 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 ho.
Hilarity. Before we get talking about games, I just wanted to kick the show off with a quick story from the land down under, where beer does flow and men chunder. As you are probably aware, Australia is home to many, many creatures that want to kill you. There are jellyfish at the beach that can kill you with a sting, spiders that can kill you with a bite. Plus, there are those Tasmanian giant crabs that can kill you with a heart attack if you're not prepared to see them. Boy, are those just some frightening pictures. All the animals and insects in Australia are out to get you, and now so are the plants. Scientists in the country have published a paper on the Gimpy Gimpy tree, also known as a stinging tree, And in the paper, it claims that the tree produces toxins that have a strong resemblance to the toxins you find in spiders and scorpions. The leaves of the tree are covered in little fine hairs that scientists say act like hypodermic needles when you touch them, and they inject the toxins when they make contact with your skin. If you touch one of the trees and get one of the tree leaves and get infected with the toxins, they say you first experience an intense burning in the skin that a few hours later will change to feel like that part of your body was just slammed shut in a car door. This is according to the article in the BBC. The pain can last for several days or even weeks. Scientists say the toxin makeup is not like, KNOT, not like, meaning it will tangle itself in the pain receptors and repeatedly target them. Good God, could Australia sound any more terrifying?
I can't wait for Steve-O to put his dick on it. Hey, Jackass is coming back, and I had no idea until recently.
Now, I don't want to go too fake news on stuff in this segment, but how can we be sure this is not another Drop Bears?
Bears?
The Drop Bears thing? Basically, there was a sort of, what's it called? A myth going round on the internet maybe about 8 years ago that there were killer koalas that hid up in trees and they would drop down on you and eat your face. Yeah, it was fake news, but I think, I feel like I remember reading something like it was enough people believed it that it did stop quite a few people doing backpacking in Australia, because like I know from meeting people who were from Australia on my exchange years that they got taught as kids to check inside their shoes in case there were poisonous spiders and stuff hiding inside their shoes, which as a person from England, that's, I mean, we get wood lice. Wood lice come in the house and daddy long legs, but that's about it. No snakes, nothing. Well, we have adders, but you never see adders. So yeah, Australia is terrifying. The US is kind of terrifying as well. You have some scary creatures as well compared to us. Alligators are scary.
Alligators, crocodiles, people from Alabama. Yeah, we have a lot of very scary things here. Occams, you would agree, Drop Bears sounds like a great 80s B horror movie, right?
It really does. That's it reminds me of the Mitch Hedberg had a bit about koalas would be the cutest infestation you could ever have.
Oh man. I will have to say with these deadly trees, first of all, it does not make me want to visit Australia anytime soon. But second, now that we know that there are trees out there that are this, harmful to our health, I think we kind of all owe M. Night Shyamalan an apology for how he treated The Happening. Clearly, he was just ahead of his time.
Remember how he made that Avatar movie? I don't even like Avatar. I knew that movie was a piece of shit.
You are listening to Podtoid.
Anyway, let's go ahead and move on, get talking about games. And Dan, we're going to start with you with this. I assume it's a masterpiece, WWE Battlegrounds.
Yeah, but before we get to that, actually, guys, as the video editor and video producer of Destructoid, I'm going to have to make you all sign an agreement in the next 30 days. We're trying to own the rights to your names.
Okay.
And because of that, you won't be able to participate on other podcasts, websites, because you're affecting the brand,
So we've already signed all our names over to Moist last week. Now we got to sign them over to you this week?
Yeah, unfortunately. Sorry about that.
I think you guys are going to have to settle that in the ring, perhaps with a cage and chairs and ladders.
I was hoping to maybe do that in Battlegrounds, but I haven't seen really any kind of coverage of the game, but that doesn't really surprise me.
Well, this is the game that's replacing the annual WWE release that they usually do.
Yeah, they're skipping the annual 2K series this year because 2K20 was, I guess, bad enough that they're going back to the drawing board, hopefully.
Bad enough that you still bought it after all the reviews came out and said it was bad.
Well, I pre-ordered it, so actually, when I first got my copy, I remember just not seeing anything on the internet, so I went in pretty blind. And it's not even I wouldn't even say it's a bad game. It's just incredibly bland and extremely low budget. Any game with a start screen that's just the static still image of the box art kind of already sets an expectation, but like everything about it's very budgety. They don't have like any actual like voice work. All the campaign stuff is presented in a comic book kind of format. But Paul Heyman like coming up with this brand new wrestling show or whatever where people are just wrestling like out in the streets and shit, or in the Florida Everglades where you throw people into crocodiles, like an environmental thing. And like it's tonally, it's a fucking massive difference from the usual 2K release of these games where like they're trying to go for this like hyper realistic simulation approach. That's been like the wrestling approach now for years. The past like 5-6 years now has been like this slow evolution of like going to this like very boring and methodical, well, I wouldn't say boring, but very sim-like approach to wrestling. And I do appreciate that attempt, but people have been like dying for the return to like No Mercy, Here Comes the Pain, like just that arcade type.
Yeah.
And this, I feel like, is like that, but insanely bland. Combos are just like very basically press square 3 times to do like a punch combo, press triangle 3 times to do a kick combo, and you can mix it up from there a little bit. There's grabs and throws. It's the most like basic game you could get in this series. Feels like they went back to like the drawing board and then like started from scratch a couple of months ago, and this is what they had. So, and I don't know if the world pandemic affected this. It probably did. But yeah, it's just, wouldn't say it's bad, but it's just extremely just average in every sense of the word.
Now, I've read that you have to unlock a lot of characters in this. Like, grind out to unlock.
Yeah, you earn like in-game currency that you can then spend on characters. So that was in the 2K series as well, but you'd at least earn that through playing the universe mode, doing whatever basically. Here you'd have to, I guess, go through the entirety of the campaign, which is very long. It's like, I don't know, fight like 100 different dudes. It's like, oh, great, awesome. And you use like pre-made characters as well. There's a character creation system, but you don't use that in the campaign mode. You just get like these like different pre-made wrestlers to use that are all kind of boring, which I was extremely disappointed by. I spent like half an hour making WCW's The Wall, found out I couldn't use them.
Now, when you say pre-made characters, do you mean like actual WWE superstars, or are these just
like
generic
pre-made characters? I already forgot their names, and you go up against random WWE superstars. You fight Baron Corbin like 4 times in a row. So it's yeah. If that doesn't make you excited, what does?
It reminds me of when I'd watch WWF in the late 80s, early 90s. And the early matches, I guess they were like warm-up matches, but it'd be like Hulk Hogan versus Steve Dickerson. Just like some dude.
Yeah.
And they all kind of look like they were in a Hall & Oates cover band.
No platinum trophy either. Just like the regular like bronze, silver, and like 1 gold trophy. Which like I have not seen that before in a physical game you purchase since like maybe the PS3 days. Or even like a small limited run release. I've not ever seen that in what should be like, an annualized sport game release where it's like, yeah, I don't know, there's no platinum in this. So if you're a trophy hunter, there ain't much here either. That's like the one kind of thing I thought about was like, well, at least this will probably be an easy platinum. But I checked the trophies like, oh, no, you don't even get one of those. I wasn't going to comment on the graphics because I know some people might like that. Like I've seen some people like the aesthetic, but they're like small-bodied, big-headed characters. It's... I don't know. I don't like it, but I didn't want to comment about it because some might, but...
Well, do you like that?
No, not at all. They look terrifying. Especially the women. Like, their eyes don't move. They're big-headed. Like, they put in less work, it seems. Big shock. They just look extra terrifying. Just look up, like, any female superstar in that game. Wow.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to myself. I couldn't talk about this game last week because the review embargo was up on Tuesday and this show goes up on Monday, so I had to save it for this week. But my big review of last week was 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. I talked about the prologue on the show 2 weeks ago, and now that I've finally gone through it, I think I can confidently answer Occam's question about whether or not it is fun. I had fun with it, but I don't think it has the broad appeal of Vanilleware's past titles. if you really love the action gameplay of games like Odin Sphere and Muramasa, you're going to have to come into this title with a completely different set of expectations in order to walk away even remotely happy. But I really liked it, and I liked it because of the focus on the story mode, which is called Remembrance. It contains no action outside of basically moving the 13 protagonists from one area to the other, talking to other characters, listening in on conversations, and then thinking to yourself. This portion of 13 Sentinels is an adventure game, and I think a lot of reviews describing it as a visual novel are wrong to do so, but it is very well written, and it's pretty gripping. A lot of twists and turns that you don't see coming because of how the story is broken up between these three protagonists. One of the examples I used in my review is you will see a scene early on in the game with one of the characters, and then several hours later, you'll see it again from a different perspective, and it will shine an entirely new light on what you saw before. And there are some big revelations that are made by doing it this way. I'm not going to spoil anything here. I will say that it does borrow a lot from established science fiction and stories that have already been told in crafting its own narrative. So the individual pieces might not be original. The whole experience is unique. It's a really great story. It's just unfortunate that they chose to not make this a whole cohesive game and instead split it up into two parts, because the other part is Destruction. And I think it's kind of fine on its own. It plays like an RTS, but it pauses every time you can perform an action. It's pretty simplistic. And once you get into the swing of things, battles are really fast paced. A lot of particle effects happening on the screen. It actually does slow down the frame rate. Some of the later battles do, so I can understand why. If they can't handle it on a PS4, I can understand why maybe they dropped the PS Vita version. I like them for what they are, but they do lack the depth of their contemporaries, and I know that was kind of a sticking point for a lot of reviewers out there, that the Destruction battles just aren't that difficult, or they don't involve that much strategy. What I don't like is that the two modes are not tied together. Like, you're forced to go between them when the game locks you out of one version. You're forced to go through them when the game locks you out of one half until you complete the other half up to a certain point. Because the story is so good and I was just so enthralled by it, every time I had to go back to the battles, it started to feel like work rather than something I was enjoying playing at that point. Near the very end of the game, I had finished 11 of the 13 story paths. I just had 2 more to do, but the game was just like, no, now you have to go do like 5 or 6 battles in a row before you can unlock those. And I was like, God damn it, just let me finish the story. And I swear, I promise, I'll go do the battles. In the prologue, you had a battle and then a set of story segments, and then a battle and then a set of story segments. I honestly think if it kept that format throughout the rest of the game, or maybe switch it up just a little, but had them as one cohesive experience, I would have awarded this a 10 out of 10. Like, that's the difference splitting it up made for me.
So why do they get naked when they go inside the robots?
You know what? So apparently they tell you in the game. I completely forgot though.
Damn.
I completely, and I went looking for an answer on it after you asked me that question. And I got one person saying that the reasoning is dumb, like quiet in Metal Gear Solid 5.
Oh, okay.
And then I had another person saying the reason is not dumb, like quiet in Metal Gear Solid 5.
This question you proposed then started a flame war. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't propose this question. I just went looking for answers and found literally
okay.
These are 2 people independent of each other on different websites having this making these comments, both relating to quiet in Metal Gear Solid 5. So I guess I need to go back through the story and find out where they talked about it, because it obviously wasn't stupid enough that I wrote it down, but it clearly wasn't interesting enough that I bothered to remember it.
I'd be naked in the mech.
It seems like it would get hot in there, and so you wouldn't want a bunch of clothes on.
It's like with the Evangelion units, how they have that like liquid gel stuff. But that's a whole thing about it. But that'd be kind of cool. Like the stuff from the Abyss. You just fart in it. No one would care.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to you, Occams. Why don't you tell us about Pathfinder Kingmaker?
Sure. All right. So, let's say if you like Baldur's Gate. Oh, my phone decided to make a noise. If you like Baldur's Gate or Planescape Torment or any of those kind of CRPGs, it's like that, set in the Pathfinder universe. I love those games. I played a lot of them when I was a kid on PC. So it's fun to see this sort of resurgence. They seem to make a bit of a comeback, especially on Kickstarter. Actually, I think this was a Kickstarter game, and it's fun. You know, what I do is I set it on the easiest mode because I just kind of want to go through the story, and I really like the little hand-drawn environments. And every time you go to a new area, it's almost like like you're exploring like a diorama. The way it's set up, these kind of fun little set pieces. And this game kind of throws in something a little different. Is pretty early on in the game, you kind of get your own piece of land, and you're a baron or a baroness of this land, and you get to make decisions for your kingdom, which is kind of fun. That's a sort of a new twist on that tried and true kind of play style where you just have your group and you run around, you cast a magic missile. It's a good time. And so I've been like controlling this land and doing stuff like, you know, trying to settle disputes and all. And I like that part. I do sort of find myself kind of getting bored of it after a little while, just because it's like, we should hang out with these artisans and do a trade agreement. I'm like, yeah, or I could go fight trolls, which I'd rather do, honestly. But it's fun. If you, like I said, if you like Baldur's Gate, Planescape Torment, those kind of games, I don't think this is quite at that level. Certainly not a Planescape Torment. It's my favorite one of all time from the CRPG genre. But it's fun, and it's a nice kind of, what am I trying to say? It's a nice break from reality, I suppose. So it's a good time, and if you can find it on the cheap or GameFly or whatever, it ain't a bad way to spend some time.
All right, let's go ahead and close out this section with Charlotte. Charlotte, you've been diving into Final Fantasy X HD.
Yep. Though it's a bit of an odd one because I've only been playing for a couple of hours, but I kind of want to talk more about my experience of replaying the first 2 hours rather than about the whole game, because I don't usually like talking about games when I've only played a bit of it, but something really strange happened when I played it again for the second time, because I'm definitely going to continue playing it. Like, I've been jumping around from game to game the past few weeks, not being able to decide what to play, but something really odd happened with Final Fantasy X. So the first time I tried to play Final Fantasy X, it was the PS2 version, and it was in 2015, and it was about 2 or 3 weeks after I started playing games again after a really long hiatus. And I just, for some reason, this game was absolutely baffling to me. I just could not, stick it out. I wanted to, but the sphere grid, they may as well have been speaking Chinese to me. I had no idea how to navigate this thing. And for some reason, I just kept getting lost with the map. I don't even understand looking back why, because it's really not that difficult. But for whatever reason, this hiatus that I had with playing games just reduced my skill level to less than 0. Mm-hmm. So it's always been one of those games where I was like, do I want to go back to this? Or is this just going to be that game that I'll never be able to play that's just too difficult? For some reason, it had this image in my head of just being an impenetrable game. So I decided to give it another go. And I have to say, it's really hard to understand why I had such a tough time 5 years ago. It's really odd to think back to that time when I just had no idea how the basic mechanics of certain types of games worked. Because the sphere grid, I did have to Google, like, you have to sort of click to move and then move. So I kept trying to do the sphere grid and move along it, and it wasn't working. But once I Googled it, I understood what I was doing wrong. But aside from that, like, the map is fine. I'm finding treasure that I'm pretty sure 5 years ago I just walked straight past. And I got to the bit where you meet Yuna. And it must have taken about a third of the time it took me 5 years ago. I just wanted to bring it up because it's just crazy to think, like, how bad I was at games 5 years ago compared to what I am now. And it's completely understandable because I had this massive gap of not playing games. Like, I was starting from 0 again. I just kind of wanted to open it up as well, whether any of you have had the experience where you've played a game years down the line, and because you've played other games that are very similar, suddenly you're just naturally better at that kind of game. And you're like, oh, why did I struggle with this game years ago? Maybe the opposite. Like I can't play SSX style games anymore. I used to be really good at them, and my skill at that genre of game has just evaporated because of lack of practice.
I'm having that experience right now with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. I haven't played a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater since probably the PlayStation 2 days, like since maybe Underground. I remember when Skate came out on PS3. I just stuck to Skate. I just played that, which was hugely different from Tony Hawk Pro Skater. That is very, I wouldn't say sim-like, but just far different in terms of control scheme. So going back to Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, and then realizing as a kid, all I really did was get hit by the bullet bunch and ride over like bullcrap and get hit by cars and not really think about the store or anything like that. And then going into it again all these years later, being like, yeah, I got to complete all these challenges to get a store or whatever. And then realizing just how bad I am has been a little eye-opening compared to like watching the developer get like 100 million on Warehouse and then me sitting there struggling to like break 100K.
Charlotte, I know exactly what you're talking about because I can no longer play sports games. Like growing up with my older brother, he always got Madden. Every single year we get a new Madden. And then after he moved out, I bought maybe one Madden game since then. And it was the all play one that EA did for the Wii that I really liked. But other than that, every single sports game, and let's include UFC and WWE games in there as well, completely confounds me. And I feel like I have to open up the booklet and really study all of these controls just to be able to even remotely have a chance. I hate it because the only game my nephew wants to play with me is Madden or some other sports game that I'm just like, you're just going to beat me. Can't I just admit defeat right now? Can we play a first person shooter so I can kill you? I mean, that's easy for me. Don't make me play Madden again. So, every time I have to play a sports game with either my past roommates or my nephew, it's a comedy of errors of how badly I do with those titles.
A lot of that is just striving for realism, especially with the 2K stuff.
Yeah,
like they have this idea that like they're trying to be so hard to be sim-like nowadays, where the control schemes are just insanely complicated. Like if you play WWF No Mercy compared to WWE 2K19, it's two completely different games.
It's funny the habits we pick up when we play games. Like I grew up mainly playing RPGs. That was my bread and butter. That was my happy place. And to this day, I still, like, whenever I go into like someone's house in an RPG, I check every cabinet, I check every like dresser, every pot, every jar to see if there's something I can pick up.
And now, do you do that when you go into people's real houses?
I mean, yeah. How else am I going to get free medicine?
I always enjoy finding a hamburger in a drawer, so
I watched a movie recently called Babette's Feast, and it just cracked me up because at one bit they were making soup, and it was called bread ale soup, and she just opened this drawer, and this is set in like the 1850s, 1870s, and it was just a drawer full of like stale bread, and I was like, all right, cool, bread drawer, I dig it.
Hey, Charlotte, was when you started playing Final Fantasy X after taking the hiatus from games, was it the first game you tried to jump back in with?
No, not quite. I think I played Persona 3 before that, and I didn't really have much of a problem with Persona 3, so I wasn't expecting to have any issues with Final Fantasy X. But having said that, when I was a kid and when I was a teenager, I didn't play any Final Fantasy games or any JRPGs really, except for if you can class Pokemon as an RPG style game. That was my only experience with that type of game because my experience was that a lot of the kids at school who had older brothers, they were the kids who played the Resident Evils, the Silent Hills, and also the Final Fantasies. Whereas people like me who didn't really have those role models, but also my parents were pretty strict about what I played. I just never touched anything that was long, so distract me from homework or potentially, not age appropriate. So I had all these games to catch up on when I was 23 and getting back into games. And some of them were just way too hard for me to start off with. And for whatever reason, Final Fantasy X was one of those. And now I'm playing it and I'm like, this is way easier than Kingdom Hearts. What the fuck? It really is. Like, Kingdom Hearts is a harsh mistress at the beginning, at least. And this is easy. If you know basic JRPG mechanics and you've got a little bit of experience with it, it's not hard to start at all.
I was lucky enough to have parents who weren't that strict on what games my brother and I would rent or buy. So, we had Mortal Kombat 2 right when it came out. We played the Resident Evils. We played Metal Gear Solid. Those were both rated M for mature. It's funny because my brother then grew up to be a more strict parent. So my older nephew hasn't played a lot of M for mature games. He hasn't played the new Doom, and that just makes me sad. Come on, it's Doom. I should get him that for Christmas. Oh, that would piss my brother off so much.
You should, and it's not even scary, or it's cartoonishly violent. It's fine.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to all the latchkey kids out there.
Yeah, that's the thing. I kind of wasn't. I used to go to my parents' workplace every day after school. My parents were extremely strict, and they still ask me when they talk about the fact that I play games now, oh, but you don't play that Grand Theft Auto, do you? And it's like, man.
Bad news.
I'm actually bludgeoning a hooker to death in it right now, Mom.
This is Podtoid.
All right, that is it for games, which means it is time for the news.
This is the news.
And this was another big week for the industry as we had 2 huge streams covering upcoming games and consoles. We're only going to talk about one today, but suffice to say last week's 3rd Nintendo Partner Mini Direct was its best so far, and we have some really fun games to look forward to later this year and next. But bigger than that was Sony's presentation for the PlayStation 5 that finally gave us a release date and a price, setting off a free-for-all to get your pre-order in as fast as you could. So let's talk about that, because there was a lot in that show. First of all, it started with Final Fantasy 16 being revealed as coming exclusively to consoles on the PlayStation 5 as well as PC. And after Final Fantasy 15 and 13's more modern setting, 16 looks like it's taking a big step back in a setting that's familiar to the older Final Fantasy games. From the look of the trailer, there so far is just one protagonist, but that could change depending on how development is going. Some of the names attached to the game include Naoki Yoshida, I hope I pronounced that right, who is better known as the man who saved Final Fantasy 14. And Ryota Suzuki is rumored to be the battle director on Final Fantasy 16. You might know his work best for his years at Capcom, working on titles like Devil May Cry 5 and Dragon's Dogma. So that was the start of the show. That was how they kicked it off, and they quickly followed it up with a new trailer for Miles Morales, the reveal trailer for the Avalanche-developed Harry Potter game called Hogwarts Legacy, a few trailers for games that we already knew about, a Devil May Cry 5 port that adds Virgil to the game, a new Five Nights at Freddy's game, and finally it ended with a reveal of a new God of War coming next year. But before that, Sony showed off the PlayStation 5 release date and price. It's going to release on November 12th, and the all-digital version is going to cost $399, while the physical disc version will cost $499, matching the price of the Xbox Series X. Dan, you got your pre-order in. Was there anything in this presentation besides the price and date that really pushed you to do it right away?
I mean, work primarily.
Okay.
I tackle video reviews, and I'm assuming we're gonna have video reviews for launch games. So that's my logic. It's this is also both a work and just hobby kind of thing. So I knew I was going to at least get a PlayStation 5 at launch, even before dates and rumors and all that stuff was a thing. But if I wasn't, if I was just pre-ordering this from the get-go, I'm at least excited for a Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, even if the 4K option doesn't have 60 frames per second. It's 30, I think, is the supposed rumor. Yeah. I don't know, or if that's even a rumor, if that's confirmed or not. Either way, I'm stoked to play that again. Throw that in with Spidey and Demon Souls on launch. That's not the worst launch lineup, so
I think it's pretty good for in terms of a PlayStation first-party titles, especially
It
someone
beats
made
the hell out of Knack and that Killzone game that I forgot the name of.
Killzone Shadowfall, or you know what they had on the PlayStation 2. I think their big title was like that Fantavision fireworks game.
Yeah.
Like
a lot of people don't have that context. A lot of people really should go back and look at launch titles of the previous PlayStations. They were not the best, so.
PlayStation 3 had Resistance that I enjoyed.
And
so,
MotorStorm. I remember the long load times in MotorStorm, like literally like 2-3 minute long load screens to like select your vehicle.
No longer have to worry about that with that SSD.
Yeah.
Now I want to play that firework game again. I remember my buddy, like because he was the one who always bought the systems new, and he'd buy the bundles.
Yeah.
And I remember we got that firework game, and we legit played it for like a week. Just because I think we were just amazed at like the newness of it. That was really exciting for us.
Yeah, I mean that was almost like a tech demo for the PlayStation 2 and what's possible in terms of graphics and colors and everything else that goes with it. Because it was such a huge jump up from PlayStation to the 128-bit PlayStation 2. It's just a monumental shift forward in power and graphics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with the PlayStation 5, in terms of graphics, I think we're in full diminishing returns and stuff, but I do think that Astro Playroom thing will be enticing, at least as a tech showcase, which is apparently some built-in game that they're including with all the PS5s.
Yep.
At least in terms of, 4K, higher refresh rates, and what they could do with stuff like ray tracing, things like that.
Charlotte, did you watch the presentation?
I didn't watch it, but I've caught up gradually throughout the week on various bits and bobs. I am wondering, like, just to bring it back to my rant about my TV at the beginning, I wonder if, but I'm thinking about it. I wonder if certain markets might, whether there'll be people who are shelling out on a whole entertainment system because of the PS5, or whether, like me, they need to replace their TV. Because the thing is, in Germany, my experience has been that the TV here is pretty bad. Like, people have to pay the TV license, but they don't watch TV as much as my experience was in the UK. So, and people just watch catch-up services, and then they might just have, a fairly crap TV for gaming, and then their laptop, and they just watch streaming services on their laptop. So whether as many people have fancy TVs here, I'm not so sure, in which case whether that will affect sales or whether the opposite will happen, and people will be laying down serious cash for the PS5 and the Xbox, in the sense of they'll be shelling out on a load of extra equipment for it. Because I've been aware for a year I'm going to have to buy a fancy TV for it to make sense for me to get a PS5. I mean, I could still get one, but I would not get any benefit from the graphics boost whatsoever unless I get a new TV.
Well, with the Xbox Series S, they kind of have that advantage of it's designed around 1080p in terms of resolution and stuff like that. That's where a lot of the confusion is coming in, where people are wondering why Xbox One X enhancements aren't going to work on the Xbox Series S, and that's because a lot of those enhancements are designed around 4K.
Right.
So when you're getting those backwards compat titles, they'll just do the Xbox One stuff. They won't have those Xbox One enhancements because those are designed around 4K. I feel like a lot of people miss that notion, but
certainly some headlines made it sound a lot more dire than it actually was. Charlotte, can you explain to me the TV license thing? We don't have that in America.
Basically, every household has to pay €18 a month to be the public TV channels, basically. Okay. Which that exists in the UK as well. The difference is the UK has good TV. Germany has absolute shite TV. It's absolutely fucking appalling. Like, nobody watches it, but we have to pay it. Otherwise, we're breaking the law. We are literally breaking the law. But I have never had a TV hooked up to receive TV channels the entire time I've been living in Germany. And I know plenty of people. Well, my boyfriend didn't either. That's why we currently don't have the TV hooked up. So there is no real reason for us to get a new TV except for the PS5, because we just watch Netflix, you know.
And considering how bad you've said Germany's internet is, I assume you're not watching 4K Netflix.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's the other thing. That's the other piece of the puzzle, because that is correct. If people want to watch high quality Netflix, then they might get a TV for that. But Germany is pretty well known to be strangely advanced, yet have relatively terrible internet. Like, I know of people who've gone to work in the Ukraine and found that the internet is better in the Ukraine, which is like, not to say that the Ukraine is not developed, but you wouldn't kind of expect that it has better internet than Germany, which is like renowned as like the key powerful country in the EU. So
I just want to give a big shout out to the Ukraine.
Yeah, shout out to the Ukraine. But yeah, I might be completely going off on a tangent there. It's just I feel like owning a TV here just isn't like owning a fancy TV. I mean, obviously there are department stores full of them, but I just don't know that many people who put that much stock in having one. But the PS5 seems like the main reason for people like me to get a new TV. So
Yeah.
that's then a dropping like, I don't know, maybe like 1,000 on everything in total, at least. I'll probably do it next year sometime.
Yeah, that was my thought after watching the presentation. You know, the new Final Fantasy looks great, and the fact that it's more action oriented, kind of like Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I love the gameplay in that, really has me excited about the direction it's going. The new Harry Potter game looks good, and it's really testing how I feel about the Wizarding World right now, especially with her latest book. It was a good show all around, but there's nothing in the launch lineup that is making me think I have to pick this up right now. I have to pick this up at launch. I don't have the responsibility like Dan does with being our reviews editor to get video reviews out on the PS5 right away. So I also have a lot of PlayStation 4 games I still need to get through, and I'd rather do that for the next 6 or 7 months than buy one of these and start moving stuff over. And it's kind of weird because the Xbox Series S reveal really excited me versus this one, and I think it has to do with just the fact that I don't have experience with Xbox, so there's just so many franchises and games that I am going to be exposed to with that, and that's just not the case with the PlayStation 5, especially considering 3 of its games, Miles Morales, Horizon, and I can't remember the third one, but they're all coming to the PlayStation 4. Demon Souls coming to PlayStation 4?
No, 5. No, sorry.
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about like launch titles or whatever.
No. The games that are coming to the PlayStation 4 in addition to PlayStation 5. There's Miles Morales, which, by the way, looks like a PlayStation 4 game with ray tracing. So it's never going to be a shock that this was also going to come to the PlayStation 4. Horizon, and I can't remember the third one. I think it's a launch title, but I can't remember which one. Maybe it's the Sackboy game.
All Stars or whatever the hell is that?
That's one of them, but I don't think. Yeah. I think it's a Sackboy game. Yeah. So I don't really have to get it right away if I want to enjoy some of those next gen games. I will say, with the new $70 price tag on first party games, I'm going to be utilizing GameFly like never before. I just can't see myself buying 10 games in a year and spending upwards of $800 on doing so. So I will be using Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, GameFly. Really, the only console I'm going to be buying games for now going forward is Nintendo, which is basically the same policy I had back when I didn't even own a PlayStation 4.
Yeah, for me, I pre-ordered the PlayStation 5 with the disc drive solely because I know there's going to be at least like a collector edition for something that I'll be excited about, and I'll want the steelbook, and I'll want to be able to put the disc in, obviously. So that's about it, though. If it weren't maybe for like the urge of like, there might be a cool collector's edition for some sort of franchise I might want, I would probably just go with the digital console.
I'm getting the version with the disc drive solely because I want to play my Blu-rays going forward. Otherwise, I have to get a separate Blu-ray player.
That's true as well, yeah.
So
I think you kind of want to leave the option open to yourself. I feel kind of uncomfortable cutting off that option a little bit. It's the same with the Switch and how technically the Lite would do everything for me that I would need. But I always think, what if I want to stream someday from a Switch, and then I can't do that with the Switch Lite, so I'd need the full thing. So I'd probably get the physical, like the one with the physical disc drive. But on the other hand, getting a digital one, it might encourage people to use the PS Store rather than buying used games. Like, it's going to be harder to do that now if you've got a digital one, in which case more money will be going back to the developers, which is possibly a good thing, I guess.
I mean, I still can't wrap my mind around going all digital. I don't know if it's just the collector in me or the archivist in me who likes the object, who likes to be able to look at a shelf and see my games. And I don't really buy that many games. And it's funny because I utilize the PlayStation Store. Seemingly there's always some kind of sale.
Yeah.
And I have to have over 200 games digitally, like little $3 purchases here, something, or the PlayStation Plus games. But like losing the disc drive to me, it worries me because what happens when the console dies? But then at the same time, if the console dies, even if you have a disc drive, you can't play your game. It's a weird debate I've been having in my head whether or not I want to go all digital. Like, it'd be strange to me. Like, okay, the Bloodborne 2 comes out. I'm crossing everything I can cross right now. But like the idea of just downloading it versus going to the store and buying it, maybe it's part of the ritual of it. But to Dan's point, there's definitely certain games. The idea of a collector's edition definitely would. When I do get a PlayStation 5, it will be the disc drive one for now. We'll see in the future though.
Also, we've talked about this many times before, but countries and places with terrible internet, which can be just in the countryside of a country that otherwise has pretty good internet. It was inevitable, but they're not going to be able to really take full advantage of the PS5 era. I mean, I've seen that Miles Morales, I think, has a minimum install size of 50 gigabytes. So if you're going all digital, you need good internet. And the reason you don't have good internet is because you don't have the funds for good internet, then you're going to have to spend an extra 100 to get the physical edition. So it's kind of like, this is not a complaint. I feel like this was an inevitability that this was going to be an expensive generation, but it is cutting access for those who are less well off or who live in a place with a less developed infrastructure. It's not going to be an accessible generation for those people.
Yeah, a less developed infrastructure, like America. The Miles Morales Special Edition, the one that comes with a completely PS5 ready version of Spider-Man, is 100 gigabytes. That is more than 1/3 of my data cap right there for my internet. So I will be relying on discs a lot versus downloading a fucking 100 gigabyte game here. Demon Souls is 68 gigabytes. That's my ISP would kill me if I started downloading all those games.
You are listening to Podtoid.
We are just about out of time, but before we go, Occams, we have a community shout out this week.
Yeah, we got a few. Let's see here. All right. So just a general shout out to Podtoid or Opening Toid. Everyone was sharing their favorite anime openings, even though I shared the best one, Cowboy Bebop. Just saying.
Okay.
So that was really fun to see the community kind of do that. That was a good time. A couple individual ones. Bong264. He's saying how he moves with the game. So like if he's playing a video game where the character jumps, he lifts the controller up in the air as the character jumps. And that warmed my heart because I did that, and I remember my mom. The one time my mom played Super Mario Brothers, she did that, and that made me smile. Tater Chimp continues to post pictures of these horrific hamburgers from this place he goes to. And they're insane. Like this one's like a kimchi burger with like an egg on it and just all kinds of stuff. It looks like they took a plate of food and figured out a way to put it on a burger. And if that appeals to you, then may God have mercy on your soul. But they are fun to see though, especially whoever's making them is clearly nuts and does not believe in caloric intake, which I fully support. And then Shoggoth2588, he interviewed for a team leader position at Target. And I think he's in his probationary period for a week or two of trying that out. So just a shout out to you, buddy, and I hope that goes well. So that's it for the week.
Awesome. There used to be this burger place I lived near that their menu was an alphabet of burgers. So every letter had its own burger associated with it. I went there and got, I want to say it was a banana and No, it was a peanut butter hamburger. That was the first time I ever had a peanut butter hamburger. God, it was so fucking good.
Yeah, I've had a peanut butter hamburger before. That is surprisingly good.
This is the most
And it-
unmerited thing I've heard all day.
Let me go to a county fair sometime. You'll continue to be amazed and sad.
By the way, if you eat turkey burgers and haven't tried a peanut butter and turkey burger, you are
Holy
missing
shit.
out. It's
Yep.
so
Am I?
good.
Am I really?
The problem though is you're eating turkey burger. That's a rough one.
Turkey burgers are great.
Yeah, if you like dry meat, yeah.
Yeah, that's why the peanut butter is creamy, so it adds a little bit of moisture. That is it for this episode of Podtoid. On behalf of Dan, Charlotte, Occams, and myself, thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, or to the Destructoid YouTube channel.